Kyousuke was once a major in the army. He joined to put his powers to good use in order to help humanity. However, after the military received the prediction that Hyoubu would cause a total clash between normal people and ESPers, he was shot by his most trusted superior. After being betrayed by his own country, Hyoubu founded a criminal ESPer organization called Pandra. People who possess superpowers are called ESPers, and are able to use a wide variety of ESP abilities, however require training to be able to properly control them and integrate into normal society. They come in varying degrees of strength, categorized on a scale of 1 to 7. There are hundreds of thousands of ESPers all over the world that are level 1 to 3, but only 3% of ESPers make up levels 4 to 7. Hyoubu is the most powerful, high-level multi-powered ESPer, and desires to create a world where ESPers can live freely, or ruling it. It all starts when Hyoubu surrenders to the military and is sent to a special ESPer prison. Upon his arrival, Hyoubu meets a guy named Andy, an ESPer prisoner who somehow does not have any powers. After creating some commotion, both are sent to confinement where Hyoubu offers Andy a chance to join his side, which he accepts upon helping him escape the prison. During mealtime, the cook puts some drugs in Hyoubu's stew, but he gives it to Andy instead. During a brawl with another prisoner, Andy is unable to fight back due to the drug's effect. He gets punched in the stomach repeatedly and collapses. Andy wakes up in a surgery room outside the prison and is freed by Hyoubu, who explains to him that the prison is being used as a site for illegal ESPer experiments. Together, they reach the place where a young ESPer child, called Yugiri, is being held. The prison warden sends a monster to attack them, created by fusing several ESPer body parts together, but it ends up being destroyed when Hyoubu deactivates his own limiter, unlocking his true power. In the end, Hyoubu, Andy, and Yugiri are picked up by the other members of Pandra, and Andy is welcomed aboard their base of operations, the ocean liner ship called Catastrophe. However, Andy is revealed to be a spy, sent to infiltrate the organization as he makes contact with his superiors. A week has passed since Andy boarded the Catastrophe. The crew learns of his ability to negate all ESP abilities, and that ESPers near him may produce symptoms such as headaches, dizziness, or toothaches. A man, called Maggie, who is one of Pandra's executives, is suspicious of Andy due to issues with his past, and even more so as they cannot read his mind with their ESP abilities. Pandra is to make a trade, smuggling weapons, with a certain mafia boss named Carlo, who is a friend of Hyoubu's from World War II. We then discover that Hyoubu is actually 80 years old, but he uses his abilities to regenerate himself to keep his youth. Shortly after arriving, Pandra is attacked by the mafia they were to trade with. He gave orders to Andy to shoot Carlo when he gives the signal, but upon giving the signal, he was unable to shoot. Having already calculated this, Hyoubu uncovered his disguised clones and kills Carlo, but it turns out it was actually a robotic decoy. Carlos is actually a very high-level ESPer, but he is no match for Hyoubu, who slaughters him quickly. Hyoubu gives Andy a limiter to decrease the effect of his abilities, which makes him susceptible to having his mind read. Maggie tells Yugiri to read Andy's mind, but Yugiri informs Maggie that she will not do it unless Hyoubu himself orders her to. Meanwhile, a man named Minamoto, who is the commander of a special ESPer team called the Children, arrives at the Principality of Monarch with his friend, Sekaki. The Children is a special team formed by Babel, which consists of 3 Japanese level 7 ESPers that have signed a contract with the government. Babel is an organization that aims to work with ESPers to give them an opportunity to have a home. However, it is funded and supported by the government, and as a result, Pandra and Babel could never be on the same side, so they turned rivals. Minamoto and Sekaki attend a party held by the Princess of Monarch, called Sophie, for ESPer organizations from several countries, where they spot Hyoubu and some members of Pandra. After being confronted by the duo, Hyoubu and his party flee undetected, and some time later, it is revealed that the princess is also missing. While Sekaki and Minamoto try to access the contents of a USB flash drive that Sekaki snatched from Hyoubu's pocket, Sophie is seen under the custody of Pandra, but it is revealed that it is part of their plan to protect the princess from an assassination plot by Yugiri's request. As Sophie becomes friends with Yugiri, they decide to take a walk around the city escorted by Andy. Meanwhile, Hyoubu makes use of mass hypnosis, while simultaneously feeding their enemies with false info about Sophie's whereabouts to lure them to a trap. On the other hand, Sophie and Yugiri come to an abandoned orphanage, where the princess remembers that she had met Yugiri before as one of the orphans being raised there, before she disappeared mysteriously. They are found by the ringleader behind the assassination plot, who wants to get rid of her because of her ESPer protecting policy. But Minamoto, having previously deduced the enemy's identity upon analyzing the files, brings the police with him soon after. The criminal shoots at Sophie, but she is protected by Andy, who takes the hit, and Hyoubu disarms him before he is arrested. Sophie offers herself herself to take care of Yugiri, but she'd rather keep living with Hyoubu and the others instead, and bids farewell to her. As the catastrophe approaches the coast of Japan, Andy is searching the ship under his superior's orders when it is attacked by the members of Babel, who send the children to infiltrate it. Hyoubu confronts a member of the children, called Kaoru, by himself. Meanwhile, Andy is detained by the other two women who are part of the children, called Oi and Shiho, who steal the ship's master key from the squirrel and use it to hack the main computer. Once regrouped, the members of Pandra start a counterattack, with Andy using his second ESPer power to subdue Fujiko, who is the founder of Babel. His second power allows him to temporarily disable the abilities of someone he touches, and he goes on to destroy the hack's control while the rest of the group take on the children. In a last effort to capture the catastrophe, Kaoru, Oi, and Shiho combine their powers with their limiter's triple boost feature to restrain it, but they are repelled by Hyoubu when he unlocks his own limiter, giving them the chance to escape. As Minamoto comforts the girls who are inconsolable for letting Hyoubu escape, he ponders with Fujiko about an ominous precognition they learned regarding him. With the catastrophe undergoing repairs after their clash with the children, Andy is tasked by Maggie to accompany Yugiri as they are summoned back. Meanwhile, Hyoubu infiltrates a Babel medical facility to perform some exams on his body in secret. While taking Yugiri to an amusement park, Andy is approached by Minamoto and Fujiko, who reveal to him that they know he is a spy under the US government and ask for his cooperation to apprehend Hyoubu. Sekaki keeps watching Yugiri, who is exposed as an ESPer after she uses her powers to help a lost boy. Feeling rejected by those around her, a desperate Yugiri loses control over her powers, igniting a disastrous hypnotic trance that is contained when Andy comes to help her. Soon after, their companions appear and bring them to safety. Back at the catastrophe, a birthday party is held for Hyoubu, who is hiding the results of the exam, which indicate that he does not have much time left to live. Andy reminisces about when he was recruited by the US government. He is informed by his superiors that the time has come for him to finish his assignment. Hyoubu informs the others that their next mission is to steal a new ECM device developed in the United States. Andy then relays the info about the mission to Babel, who agreed to set a trap for Pandra, although they decide to not take the children with them this time, despite Kaoru's protests. With Hyoubu and the others cornered by Minamoto's team, Andy takes the opportunity to return to the catastrophe and accomplish his own mission, which is to extract the ship's main defense system, called Iashigo. Hyoubu follows soon after but is halted by Kaoru, who had just learned about an impending plan of destruction of the catastrophe. With his body showing signs of fatigue, Hyoubu goes full force against Kaoru, knocking her unconscious, and finds Andy as he reaches Iashigo's chambers. Revealing to Andy that he always knew he was a spy, Hyoubu claims that now he has no option but to kill him. We then get to see a flashback. Several decades ago, a young Hyoubu who had recently lost his father moves to live with Fujiko and her father in Japan. Sometime later, both Fujiko and Hyoubu are asked by a man called Eiji Sayatome to join a new ESPer special unit created under the Japanese army. Fujiko declines, despite Eiji's claim that the unit's purpose is not to help with Japan's invasions of other nations. Hyoubu was instructed by his late father to refrain from using his powers, to avoid being used as a living weapon. However, sometime later, both Hyoubu and Fujiko accept the offer and join the army. Some months later, Hyoubu and Fujiko get themselves involved in an incident with a naval officer, and the army discusses the possibility of having the ESPer unit disbanded. But Eiji proposes a bet instead, should they manage to defeat the Japanese Navy's state-of-the-art fighter aircraft. Called the Zero, the whole incident should be forgotten. Eiji chooses Hyoubu to represent the ESPer unit in the duel with the Navy fighter, but the words of his father that he should refrain from using his powers keep haunting him as he trains for the upcoming match. On the day of the duel, it is revealed that the pilot representing the Navy is the same one involved in the incident. Hyoubu finds himself in a pinch against the enemy until he finally manages to overcome his fear and wins the duel with a direct shot in the cockpit. Soon after, a US submarine is seen pursuing 3 dolphins who contact Hyoubu and the others through ESP, asking for their help just before one of the dolphins is killed by a torpedo. With the Navy fighters' help, the ESP unit managed to save the other 2 and shake off the pursuers. However, the dolphins warn Hyoubu about an ominous fate awaiting him and his companions. Years later, just after the atomic bombing of Hiroshima, Eiji informs Hyoubu that Japan is about to surrender and most of the ESP unit is dead. Eiji has a precognition that Hyoubu will bring destruction to the world in the future and decides to dispose of him. Eiji ruthlessly fires on Hyoubu, wounding him badly, but he somehow manages to survive and strikes back, apparently killing him, and leaves swearing vengeance on the normals who betrayed him and his friends. Andy uses his powers to deactivate Ihashigo's cloaking system, exposing the catastrophe to an attack by the US military. While confronting Maggie and the others, Minamoto learns about the situation. Babel's true intention was to apprehend Pandra to prevent the attack, and allows them to leave to help Hyoubu and the others. With Hyoubu busy confronting dozens of combat drones sent by the US Army, a task force invades the ship and captures Yugiri. Andy tries to stop them from taking her away, but his superior shoots him instead, and leaves with both Yugiri and Ihashigo in his possession. Andy awakens soon after, just to find he is unscathed as his limiter stopped the bullet. Meanwhile, Hyoubu feels his body fading away, and unlocks his powers to destroy the invading fleet in one fell swoop before losing consciousness, but the catastrophe ends up taking one last shot before it sunk, with everyone aboard having already evacuated the ship, except for Hyoubu and Andy. Andy saves Hyoubu from drowning and the two are rescued by Babel. Fujiko and Sakaki take Hyoubu to the estate to treat him, when we discover a girl, called Aburo, who is the secretary for the leader of Babel, has the transmitter chip extracted from Andy's body and destroyed it. By Kaoru's request, Shiho restrains Aburo and learns Hyoubu's location from her. Andy convinces the girls to take him with them, and upon arriving at the mansion, Hyoubu asks Andy about the man who contacted them aboard the catastrophe, confirming his suspicions that said man is none other than IG himself, who somehow is still alive. Meanwhile, Sakaki reveals to the girls that Hyoubu is dying, and to save his life, Kaoru offers herself for a blood transfusion. Now in possession of both Yugiri and Ihashigo, IG plans to use them both to avert the ESPer revolution, led by Kaoru and Hyoubu, set to occur in the near future. Sometime later, despite still not fully recovered, Hyoubu leaves by himself despite Kaoru's pleas, and accepts Andy's offer to accompany him. The two then depart to confront IG and rescue Yugiri. Upon arriving at home, Andy's former contact in the government is captured with Hyoubu's help, and is forced to take them to the facility where Yugiri is being kept. However, the agent manages to warn his companions about them in secret, and the two arrive just to find that Yugiri is gone. After a brief conversation with IG, he reveals his intention was to use her to kill Kaoru. The two find themselves in an ambush, and they fight to escape until they are cornered by the enemy, just to be rescued in time by Maggie and the others. Reunited once again, the members of Pandra set to New York. Hyoubu realizes that IG's next target is Norman Green, the newly elected mayor who is a supporter of ESPer protection policies. Put under some kind of trance, Yugiri kills Maggie and a couple other Pandra members before she comes across Andy. Andy follows Yugiri to the site of Green's inauguration but is restrained by the police, just to be rescued by Minamoto and Sakaki, who reveals to him that they are working with the city to stop IG's conspiracy to have the new mayor assassinated by an ESPer and alter the future. Yugiri goes in for the attack, just to be stopped by Andy, and she launches a hypnotic trance that affects everyone in the area, except Andy and his allies, starting a riot. As the riot spreads through the city, Hyoubu confronts Yugiri to free her mind, but her hypnosis makes him confront delusions of his past, until he unlocks his powers, knowing that with his body's condition, it may end up killing him. Hyoubu succeeds to rescue Yugiri, but his powers go haywire, and he asks Andy to take her away before they destroy him. However, Andy refuses to flee and uses his ability to restrain Hyoubu's powers, and save his life. As the members of Babel return home and are greeted by Kaoru and the others, Hyoubu finally comes face to face with IG. With the rest of his cohorts already in custody, IG asks Hyoubu to kill him, but he refuses to do so and decides to punish him by erasing all his memories instead. Andy decides to find his own way in life, and bids farewell to Yugiri and the others from Pandra, leaving to parts unknown after having a short meeting with Hyoubu. And this brings the anime to an end. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you enjoyed, and turn on the notification bell so you never miss out on another video. Until next time, take care.